The unpredictability of modern football makes players constantly grow and drop in price. A footballer's market value may be affected by loads of things, among them injuries and transfer moves. So if it drops, it doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with the player, but rather highlights the cruel reality of modern-day football. There are too many factors that determine a player's value apart from his performance. Today, Goal24 would like to tell you about 10 players whose market value decreased the most throughout the season, as we will also try to find out the reasons behind that and how it may affect the footballers' future careers. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss our videos. But before we get into it, we would like to ask you, which player's value has decreased the most in the last 2 years? Pogba, Sancho, Lukaku, Mane? Please leave your answers in the comments and get ready for watching. Federico Chiesa, from 65 million to 40 million euros, minus 25 million. It was only a couple of years ago when Federico Chiesa was considered one of the most promising youngsters in Europe. Throughout the 22-23 season, however, his market value dropped significantly, so let's talk about why it happened. The primary reason for that was, of course, the injuries Chiesa had to suffer. Back in November 2021, he got a hip injury that made him miss 5 games, and then, after having made 2 appearances, suffered a cruciate ligament rupture and was out of the rest of the season. A year later, Federico was back in the squad, but all those injuries couldn't help but damage his form. The Italian lost his goal-scoring touch, and the lack of playing time made it too hard for him to get back to his former level. The second reason is the overall state of the club. Though Chiesa has always been a player of great quality, football is a team game, and Juve's recent lack of consistency naturally affected his performance. Unfortunately for Chiesa, last season was a very rough one for Juventus, and the club's reputation took a noticeable hit. Due to the financial scandal, the Bianconeri were deducted 10 points, which meant a 7th place finish for Juventus and Conference League football for the next season. Juve's European campaign was no better. They only gained 3 points in the Champions League group stage and lost to Sevilla in the Europa League semi-final. As for Federico, he made 10 goal contributions in 33 matches in all competitions, but was picked in the starting lineup in only 16% of Serie A games. His stats are 1 key pass per game, successful dribble percentage of 56 and 67% pass accuracy in the opposition half. Here's what Allegri said. Federico is incredibly good on the ball, but he still has to work hard in order to improve some other aspects of his game. I'm pleased with what he's doing, with and without Dybala on the pitch. The Italian is only 25 years old, so there's still hope that his injury problems are left behind, and the player may yet rediscover his prime form and live up to his true potential. Andrew Robertson, from 65 million to 40 million euros, minus 25 million. The Scotsman Andrew Robertson, one of the key players for Liverpool, is one of the biggest names in our today's list. So the main reason for Robertson's market value decrease is, unsurprisingly, his age. The left-back turned 29 in March, and while it doesn't make a player old, it might be enough to make clubs consider signing younger footballers, especially as long-term options. The second factor is Liverpool's inconsistency. The 22-23 season was quite a bumpy ride for the Scousers, as they only managed to finish 5th in the Premier League and lost to Real Madrid in the Champions League round of 16. So though it would obviously be wrong to blame Robertson, you can't speak about a player in separation from his team's results. The level of competition at Liverpool is also a thing. Andy is no longer the only option for the left-back position, as other players, such as Kostas Tsimikas, demand playing time too. So the Scotsman played 34 games in the Premier League last season and started 76% of them. Jurgen Klopp has been rotating his squad lately, as the German didn't shy away from subbing off Robertson if there was a need. The Scotsman made 11 assists in all competitions, which is a fantastic result for a fullback. But as we have already said, it's much more than a player's performance that determines his market value. Apart from that, he made 1.6 key passes and 1.1 tackles per game and won 48% of challenges. We must not forget that Robertson still remains one of the best left-backs in the world. His quality, experience and leadership make him a great asset to any team. But just like any other sport, football doesn't stand still, and players are constantly being re-evaluated. Heung-min Son, from 75 to 50 million euros, minus 25 million. The Korean superstar Heung-min Son has long been a fan favorite and a leader for Tottenham. Despite his world-class quality and his pace, his market value has dropped significantly. Why so? The most obvious factors is Tottenham being too inconsistent and lacking results. So not only Son, but all the Spurs players have dropped in price regardless of their individual performance. While with Antonio Conte in charge, Tottenham were going fourth in the league and were on their way to qualifying for the Champions League. But their poor performance in January led to Conte being sacked, and their final result was 8th place in the Premier League, which left Tottenham out of European football. As for that season's European campaign, the Spurs made it into the Champions League knockout stage, but lost to Milan in the round of 16. Another reason is the player's age, as Son is turning 31 in July. His playing career is surely far from over, but speaking of clubs' transfer policy, we have already mentioned their desire to go for younger players. The Korean made 20 goal contributions in 47 matches in all competitions, which is a pretty decent result for any attacker. Apart from that, Son made 2.3 shots per game, 1.8 key passes per game, and had 45% of successful dribbles. As you understand, despite his market value change, Heung-min Son remains one of the biggest Premier League stars. His quality, combined with incredible professionalism, is enough to make the biggest clubs consider signing the Korean. However, at the moment, the only interested clubs are those from Saudi Arabia, while the Korean is determined to stay in the Premier League. Mohamed Salah, from 90 to 65 million euros, minus 25 million. Another Liverpool player in our list, Mohamed Salah, is without a doubt one of the best footballers of recent years. The Egyptian has been playing fantastic football lately, but last season his market value decreased by 25 million euros. What we must mention once again is Liverpool's performance, as both Salah and Robertson are team players. That's why their values naturally dropped after their team had a bad season. Jurgen Klopp's side is one that sets the highest goals, and last season they failed to achieve them, so it would be unwise to put all the blame on the manager. As Jurgen Klopp said, Mohamed is a world-class athlete, the first to show up at training and the last to leave. He hasn't been scoring lately, so some must be thinking, why would they offer Klopp a new contract? This is how it is, and that's alright. When there's something wrong with your results, they always tend to criticize you. Another factor is Salah's age. The Egyptian has turned 31, and this is the age when the clubs are starting to look for a player's replacement, even though an experienced player may still have the required quality. As for Salah, he looks determined to keep scoring for Liverpool. Last season he made 46 goal contributions in 51 matches in all competitions. Mohamed was carrying his team both in the Premier League and in Europe, as he scored 8 goals and made 2 assists in the Champions League games, while his defense conceded 5 at Anfield against Real Madrid. His attacking stats are 3.3 shots per game, 1.7 key passes, and 41% of successful dribbles. The Scousers are eager to compete for all kinds of trophies next season, and Salah is probably yet to say his final word. And what do you think about his market value decrease? Was it justified? Let us know in the comments. Youri Tielemans, from 55 to 25 million euros, minus 30 million. The Belgian midfielder was among the key players both for Leicester and for his national team, but his market value decreased nonetheless. So let's figure out why exactly it happened. One of the reasons is Leicester's Premier League campaign that got them relegated. Even though the club seemed to have it all, quality footballers and a decent manager, that was Brendan Rodgers, the bro decided to cut down on expenses and didn't make the signings the team needed. As a result, Leicester had the worst season in the recent years, and as you might expect, the players' values dropped. Another thing is the Belgians' form. Though Youri was still an important player for his side, his numbers and his influence weren't as impressive as they used to be. Were his injuries the only reason for such lack of consistency, we can't tell for sure. However, his ankle ligament injury made him miss 7 matches, which couldn't help but affect the midfielder's condition. Tielemans made 37 appearances in all competitions, in which he made 6 goal contributions. As for the other stats, there were 1 key pass per game, 2.1 tackles per game, and a pass accuracy of 82%. What we must keep in mind is that Tielemans is still relatively young, 26 years of age. That means that the Belgian still has time to improve and to boost his market value. So his market value drop is by no means a disaster, but rather a reflection of one poor season. Youri Tielemans has already joined Aston Villa as a free agent, so Unai Emery may become the one to help the Belgian unleash his true potential. Romelu Lukaku, from 70 to 40 million euros, minus 30 million. When you hear the name of Lukaku, you think about raw power and lots of goals. At least it used to be like that when the Belgian was leading the way for Inter to their long-anticipated Serie A trophy. Shortly after that triumph, however, his downfall began, and now Lukaku is only worth 40 million euros as per Transfermarkt. So let's start with the most obvious thing, Romelu's age. He turned 30 in May, so even though he's still in a relatively good shape, he's not as fast as he once was, as the striker excess weight is becoming more and more of a problem as years pass. In addition to that, Lukaku's form was hampered by injuries last season, as he had to miss 18 games because of them. Once back in the squad, the Belgian discovered that Edin Dzeko was now the first-choice option in attack, as the Bosnian formed a fantastic duo with Lautaro Martinez. The World Cup in Qatar was probably the biggest disappointment for Lukaku. He missed too many chances, which led to Belgium getting relegated in the group stage. By the end of the season, Romelu managed to regain his form and make 12 goal contributions in 9 games. But then there came the Champions League final, which once again turned Lukaku into a man. He blocked his teammate's shot and then wasted a perfect opportunity. All in all, Romelu made 21 goal contributions in 37 games in all competitions, which wasn't a bad result. After all, he only started half of his Serie A games. Here are the Belgians' attacking stats: 2 shots per game, 53% of aerial duels won, 1.3 key passes per game. Romelu's future is far from certain. He is to be back to Chelsea after the loan spell, while he would like to stay at Inter. The only offers the Blues have received so far are those from the Saudi Arabia clubs the player would rather not join, so we're yet to know what Chelsea's decision will be. Jadon Sancho, from 70 to 40 million euros, minus 30 million. The former Borussia Dortmund leader Jadon Sancho moved to Manchester United in summer 2021 for 85 million euros. In spite of all the expectations, his United spell has been terrible so far, and his market value has decreased by 30 million since last summer. So what were the reasons? The first one is his adaptation issues. The Premier League is a tough competition, and newcomers often need time to get a grip of how football is played in England. In his first season at United, Sancho played 38 games in all competitions and made 8 goal contributions. Jadon's injuries did the trick as well. After he had started a bigger part of games, he got a long-term injury shortly before the World Cup and was back only in February, not in the best condition as you might expect. I would like to have Jadon back as soon as possible, but some processes you can't force. This is one of them. I have to show patience, although I don't have the patience because we have a lack of options in the front line. With the physical, there's also a connection of the mental, but I think he's making good progress on the physical part, Ten Hag admitted. The third reason is the weight of expectations. High expectations result in high pressure, and if the player is unable to meet them straight away, fans and pundits are quick to consider him a waste. 85 million is a hefty fee, so much more was expected of Sancho, who only managed to score 6 goals in the Premier League. All in all, there were 10 goal contributions in 41 games for Sancho. He was picked in the first 11 in only 55% of games, and United's patience may run thin anytime soon. As for his attacking stats, Jadon made 1.7 key passes and 0.8 dribbles per game, with a success percentage of 47. However, Jadon Sancho still remains one of the biggest prospects of his generation. He's only 23, so he has every chance to reach his former market value and even surpass it. He only needs to keep working hard, and next season is going to be another opportunity for the Englishman to show his quality. Paul Pogba, from 48 to 15 million euros, minus 33 million. The record-breaking Manchester United signing Paul Pogba keeps dropping in price, which is now only 15 million euros. The reason for such a downgrade are way too obvious, and Pogba's recurring injuries are surely among them. Last summer, Paul joined Juventus as a free agent, and the Bianconeri fans felt hopeful about that signing at first, as they still remembered how good the Frenchman was back in his golden days with Juve. But that very summer, Pogba suffered a meniscus injury, and then injuries started coming one after another. As a result, the newcomer had to miss 53 matches due to his incessant injuries and only made 10 appearances in all competitions, in which he made 1 assist. Should we consider Pogba's salary, which is more than 10 million euros, we have to call that transfer a total waste. We won't even think about his advanced stats, as Paul had only 161 minutes of playing time. Not that long ago, the Frenchman suffered yet another injury which may prevent him from joining his team for the pre-season training. We are all sad because he was doing fairly well. He made a lot of sacrifices and now he has to come back because he felt pain in his quadriceps. Paul is a grown man. He has 3 children and the broad shoulders to overcome this muscle injury. When you play a game from the start after so much, you increase the risk. We will wait for him, said Massimiliano Allegri. We would like to believe that we may still see Pogba back in shape and showing his quality just like he did back in his Juve days. And by the way, we have another video featuring Paul Pogba. That is about the worst transfers of the 20-23 season, so we highly recommend you check it out and hope you'll enjoy it. Wilfred Ndidi from 60 to 25 million euros, minus 35 million. We probably wouldn't have included the Nigerian in our today's list if it were not for his 2 previous seasons with Leicester. Wilfred Ndidi made a name for himself as one of the best holding midfielders in the league, and his market value was 60 million euros. But such a level is not easy to maintain, so just like another Leicester player, he dropped in price after the Foxes' poor season, which got them relegated after all the glorious achievements. The Nigerian started this season as a first-choice midfielder for Leicester, but his side only had 4 points after their first 8 Premier League matches. After that, Ndidi's poor run of form got him benched, as the player had little to no chance to make up for that. While he was making 2.2 interceptions and 3.2 tackles per game and won 54% of challenges in the previous season, his numbers dropped significantly, so there were only 1.4 interceptions and 2.3 tackles per game, while Ndidi made 2 errors leading to goals. His rating as per SofaScore was now 6.75, the 15th result among all the Leicester players, and footballers who are worth 60 million are supposed to do much better. Just so you can compare, that was N'Golo Kante's market value back in December 2020, when he was a key figure both for his club and his national team. Back to Ndidi, his contract with Leicester lasts until 2024, so we might expect the Foxes to sell the player this summer so that he doesn't leave the club for free. Sadio Mane from 70 to 25 million euros, minus 45 million. And now to the biggest disappointment of the season, one of the worst signings of that transfer window. Sadio Mane used to be one of the biggest names in football, but the player's decision to change Liverpool for Bayern changed his life completely. Let's start with Mane's starts at Bayern. The Senegalese was supposed to become Robert Lewandowski's replacement after the Pole had left the Bayern for Barcelona. High hopes were placed on Sadio, as back at Liverpool he was among the best attackers in Europe, consistently scoring 20+ goals per season. The former Bayern head coach Julian Nagelsmann saw Sadio Mane as a first-choice attacker, and the Senegalese scored 3 goals in his first 3 Bundesliga games. But then his numbers dropped, and by the time he was injured shortly before the World Cup, Sadio had made 9 goal contributions in 13 league games. The World Cup break was followed by a terrible downfall from Mane, as he has only scored 1 goal and made 2 assists since then. At the same time, he got himself in a scandal after he busted his teammate Leroy Sané's leap after a Champions League Manchester City fixture. Such a story led to many rumors about Mane leaving Germany and making his return to England, as there are Premier League clubs willing to sign the Senegalese. Not to forget that Mane turned 31 in April, and as you might understand, age does matter when we speak about a footballer's market value. All in all, the Senegalese made 38 appearances for Bayern, in which he scored 12 goals and made 6 assists, while there were 23 goals and 5 assists in his final season for Liverpool. Back to his season at Bayern, there were 2.2 shots per game, 15 missed chances, and 49% of successful dribbles for the Senegalese. It's too early to tell if Mané will stay in Germany or be back in the Premier League. Newcastle, who will be playing in the Champions League next season, have already made an offer, and Bayern would rather sell the player as it is rumored, so we hope to hear more news on the matter in the future. We shouldn't forget that a player's market value is just one aspect of the bigger picture, as it's by no means an illustration of his talent or his influence. As we all know, every player may face difficulties at some point in his career, but such things don't necessarily reflect a footballer's overall quality. Dear friends, please let us know in the comments which footballer disappointed you the most. Thank you for watching and see you soon.